Dominic, it's your boy Ink. We're doing well. We're having a fantastic day today, Sunday, 22 October 2023. It was released, well, not released, but they put on Netflix the movie Carnage. Now, Carnage is a movie I was supposed to see years ago with one of my friends and always regret not seeing. So of course, when they released it on Netflix, I had to jump on it, right? So here's a review. Here's a what we call it. Here's my thought of the movie. Did I prefer Carnage or old or the first movie? I think I prefer the first movie. We took some notes. So if I look to the left of the camera, it's because I have some notes there. It's a solid movie. It's just the first one was so impactful for me. The second one is not bad, but it's missing the charisma, right? We have the path of Cassidy. So Cassidy is the bad guy. Cassidy Cletus. It's kind of cool because even in the anime of the 90s cartoon or the early 2000 cartoon, he was a villain. So I do remember that. Path of Cassidy. So again, we're hearing the story of how his grandma, his father, his mother died, and it's amazing because the whole movie, the whole story, and the whole like even the way he writes it is red. So you're like, holy shit, the red is important to him. And when we become Carnage, he becomes red, and then Venom says, "Oh, he's red. I cannot fight him." And it's not really explained as to why red is so powerful, but at least there's some continuity. And the set color, it's cool because it's like this signature of it could be two symbiotes fighting, and what is the difference between Carnage and Venom? They don't really explain it in the movie except for the color, right? So you can clearly see that they're different. He called Brock because Brock is he's a bit of a free rider. He doesn't have this legendary status anymore. We saw in the first movie that he lost all fame when he did a report on the main company, right? And Cletus like, yo, you need because you want to be back at the top, and people they like a serial killer, so you like me, and it's cool because Brock doesn't hesitate. He's like, well, the story could be mine, right? And Cletus he wants to tell a story, and he knows that by having Brock, who is in a position of needing, and he can bargain with a journalist, he would have no bargaining chip. But with Brock, he's like, yo, I'm gonna give you exclusivity, but you have to give me something in return. And it's crazy because Brock does find a clue in Cassidy's room that leads to finding the body of a victim of Cassidy, and that clue push him to stardom. And you can see later in the movie Cassidy being mad at Brock because Brock profited from the deal, but he didn't. Brock made some promises that he didn't have to do, and Cassidy didn't keep them. So again, like it's amazing because Cassidy is supposed to be the bad guy, but in this situation, Brock was the bad guy, and there's a lot of like issue towards Brock in this movie. Brock, he didn't keep his promise with Cassidy. He had a problem with Venom. He had a problem with Annie, so he does have a lot of problem with his uh, intra what should I call it, intra relationship, right? So helping each other. Yeah, seal fate Venom cohabitation. Oh, so they cohabit with Venom and Cassidy. After that, like Brock leave. He talks with the guy from the FBI and the guy from the FBI. We don't know if the good guy or an asshole. He ended up being neutral, right? It's funny because at the end, Dan, which is the boyfriend of Annie, Brock X helped more than the FBI guy ever did. There's another really cool thing is then they go back. Brock get everything he wants, and then Cassidy is being put to death row, and he said, "Oh, please, Brock, be here." And when they talk about Brock, they start to insult him because he's mad. Rightfully so, he's mad because Brock didn't keep his part of the deal. And Venom, and he started to insult him, and Venom is like, "Fuck you! You're not gonna talk about my friend like that," which is amazing. And but that leads into a fight, and Brock is like, "Yo, I didn't want you to fight. You didn't have to fight. Why did you fight? You always think about yourself." So you're seeing they have problem with cohabitation. You're seeing they have a problem because they start fighting. It's amazing because the promotional material for Carnage, it was about a guy who used to be a roommate to Brock and Venom, and how those two were crazy, right? And I just think it was brilliant. Marketing, and it's nice because like Venom, in this case, he's right. He has those notions that are okay, and Brock has some preconceived notion that are saying you can do this, you can do that, but never does Brock act in a fucked up way. He always says, "Oh, I need to eat the villains," right? Because he's hungry, and it doesn't come from a place where he's attacking every and anybody, right? He's attacking. He does like a job at attacking the FBI because the FBI is having an asshole. He's attacking Cassidy because Cassidy's an asshole, and you see, he could have eat Cassidy, but he didn't. Sure, he attacked him, but he didn't. He didn't eat Cassidy. And Brock is like, "No, you cannot do this, you cannot do that." And although Brock in this case is right, he doesn't take in consideration the problem of Venom, right? Which tells the story right after, because he leave. Then he had a lot of his life telling him, "Yo, I'm gonna get married to Dan, a guy we met in the first movie." And Brock and Venom feels bad about it. It's like, "Yo, she loves you," and Annie does love Brock, but she loves Dan more. There's a weird situation where you like your ex because they've been there for you, right? So Cassidy is mad at the betrayal. Venom, he bites Brock, which means he transferred the symbiote. We don't know how that worked. We don't really know exactly the idea behind it. Again, we have Carnage was red. If he was a direct son, because at the end he does call Venom his father. If he was a direct son, why wasn't he black? As I explained, I would have loved to explain because I know there's yellow Venom, there's red Venom. Is it working like because it is Marvel? Is it working like the rings of the lanterns? I don't know. My apologies. My apologies. There's separation, and it's kind of cool because we do see some scene of Venom, uh, out without Brock, and they're so satisfied. They're so happy. Venom is so happy, he's so satisfied because again, he's free. Brock was ashamed of him. Brock tried to hide him. And it's nice because you can kind of feel like Venom was being like he has this emotion where he felt like Brock didn't care about him, and it's a completely valid situation, right? And there's another time Venom says, "Before I met you, you were a loser. You owe something to me." And Brock is like, "No, no, no, you live in my body. You owe something to me." But they're both right. It's a symbiote relationship. It's one cannot live without the other. It's Venom uh, having a host. They can't survive, and they're dying left and right. And Brock, who actually needs Venom because Brock wants to he wants to save people. Deep down, he's a good guy, right? And they're talking about at the end. They're talking about Sancho and Don Quixote. I have no clue about that, but I mean, if it does prove like a point, then that's probably right. We have the no fear. People blame Brock. Yeah, it's weird because the FBI blame Brock, right? And there's not a clear explanation. He says, "Oh, you were there, you were on the case," but they don't know about Venom. They don't know about the symbiote, so they don't have a clue as to how Brock would have helped. They still think that's him, and it's kind of nuts because they never didn't. It doesn't. We don't have a scene where we're interviewing other people. So like, well, how can you be so certain that it's Brock, right? We got wait, Cassidy and Carnage friend makes deal. It's nice. It's really nice because at the beginning we have it's really cool, and that's come into play so later on. So Venom and Eddie, they were living together, and it's weird because you saw in the first movie there was never a deal made. They were like, "Oh, I'm living with you. You have a choice." And then Brock was in a position where he was constantly in danger, so he knew that he needed Venom to survive. There was never a deal made. The first thing that Cassidy and Carnage do, they make a deal. So you can see that, and it's really well written. And I mean, you can see that they're homies, right? But then the situation where Cassidy and Carnage being in the same body, they don't associate, they don't agree, and I'm gonna talk about later, but that comes into play. They have this different relationship, right? And it's not a good one. Venom is resentful towards Eddie because He kept him hidden, and you can tell that he's a nice guy. Then we learned about Saint Esther, which was the household where Cassidy and Banshee were, because her name is Banshee, Frances Barnes. Is a house where they got abused. Is a house where they end up being the villain that they are. Is because of that house, right? So there's a burning of this house, and it's kind of like a it's like a shrink. But again, Frances, who is the girlfriend of Cassidy, she doesn't stop him, and it's funny because her power are to scream. It is a perfect weapon versus Venom or Carnage. Right? Free says it's true the FBI working with him. The FBI start working with Brock, but again, it doesn't do much. It's like, yo, this is who you were looking for. This is Frances. But then knowing who she is, knowing that she has power, doesn't really help Brock because when he ends up fighting both Benchy and Carnage, he realizes right away that she has power, right? It's true the FBI working with him, Kathy, fiance. Frances unable to behave you. Yeah, exactly. We got Brock interview with the FBI again. They interview each other with 3 times, so that's why I thought this movie was a bit weaker. It's the same thing over and over again. It's weird because, like, you understand where the FBI come from. The FBI served as giving information. It served as letting Brock know that X, Y, Z is going on. That the story, the past, the present is going on. But then again, it doesn't serve purpose because Brock is not going to talk to them. However, this time he does talk to Annie and says, yo, you need to help me. You need to find Venom. And it's because of that scene that Venom goes back to being with Brock. It's kind of like an important scene. But then again, it's weird because out of the 3 times with Venom, with the Brock and the FBI, 2 of those times are complete fucking waste of time, right? No, sorry. 2 of them end up serving a purpose, which is great. But the third one is not serving a purpose, and it wouldn't be such a problem if there was not 3. It does feel repetitive, right? Take the form. Yeah. So Venom ends up taking the form of the shopper. It goes to a shop, and it's kind of cool because in the first one, she's the only one that knows here about Venom. She's been helping them out. She's been feeding them. We talk about the shopkeeper, the Asian shopkeeper, and she's like, "Yo, I know your secret." And basically, she does care about Venom a lot. When Venom is on, he takes a body and he asks for food. She hugs him, and it's really sentimental. And then Annie, she goes to see the lady, and she says, "Yo, I need you. I need you." And it's funny because Venom, although he's mad at Brock, although he's really resentful towards Brock, he still gives shit to Annie because it's like, yo, he was better without you. You hurt him. You broke his heart. Fuck you. And it's kind of cool because it does prove that Venom does care about Brock. And ultimately, at the very end of the movie, we're post credits, we're seeing that Brock also care about him, and it's not clear because there's this clear love of Venom for Brock. There's this clear love. There's this clear understanding that they're a team. But for Brock, he's kind of just using Venom, right? And there's not a lot of description on between the movie, how much time has passed between the movie, how much of Venom happened. There's not a clear understanding of that. We have. Yeah, Annie that see Brock and she said she wants apology, and then Eddie Brock, he's apologizing to both Annie and Venom. He's apologizing to Venom, but what he says applies to Annie, so they're both against that satisfaction. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's a part that I love. It's a nice thing that he's apologizing, but again, it doesn't serve a purpose. They're not gonna end up together, and actually, Jane gonna end up back with Dan. Now Dan, he gains his spot because he helps the group kill Carnage, but he helps the group kill Carnage because he wants to save Annie, not to help Brock. He has his own selfish reason or motivation, right? And although it's cool because we do see him fight and a normal human fighting some symbiote, there's a lot of scene that pushes Brock and Annie to be together, and it was the same thing in the first movie. So repeating a pattern in both movies is deserve shit, right? Even in the first one, when she does end up kissing Brock, it doesn't serve a purpose, which is a small detail, but still. got the wedding of Cassidy and Francis, which ended up being a fight. Again, they talked about how Carnage is red. It doesn't help us. They could have helped the movie, help us understand why Carnage was so strong, because we don't have a power system, right? And then it's kind of cool because Carnage calls Venom his dad, right? So it's there's a funny moment where Venom's like, "Fuck no, you're not my son," right? Ugh. There's some insult because one my I wrote this upside down. So yeah, so there's a fight, right? And during the fight is like a really like what can I how can I call that? There's some really thoughtful moments. For example, we're seeing that Cassidy is more of a victim to Venom than otherwise, because there's a lot of the scene where Cassidy tells or even like Carnage goes too far. There's a lot of scene where Cassidy prefer Francis. He's in love with Francis, but it's weird because sorry about this. There's a lot of weird scene because like Francis, she does care about Cassidy more, and Cassidy's like, yo, as long as Carnage is doing a Carnage, it doesn't really matter, right? And like Francis, she tells him, yo, you're going too far, yo, you're not him, and she can stop him, and then Carnage, he attacks her, and then we got a scene where Cassidy, because Venom Red, Carnage is a lot stronger, right? So they end up fighting, and then that's why they're getting destroyed, because at the end of the day, Carnage and Cassidy are not one, and Venom and Brock are one. This really cool scene where Danny asking the help of Brock, and ultimately what it does is when Brock asks for to Dan to say, hey, yo, help my girl, right? It does serve a purpose of like, okay, well, it's a really cool scene between Dan and Brock, where Dan is asking Brock to help him, and he see the value in Brock, which is a cool scene. Ultimately, it doesn't serve a purpose because Annie's gonna choose Dan over Brock, and ultimately, we're kind of seeing a Harry and MJ situation with Spider-Man and the first Tobey Maguire trilogy, right? Peter loved MJ, but she was with Harry, and he was like happy for her, but he still had those feelings for Annie. So we're seeing that again, same situation. We end up with a win because again, Carnage, Cassidy are not a pair. There's this really cool scene where he's accepting that Annie's not with him, and it actually serves a bigger purpose, like accepting that Annie's not with him, kind of ending the relationship, and we got the closure we want. But again, if they were to make it a third Venom movie, or is the couple gonna be something we see again? I don't know. We're gonna see where they escape because they got some eat on them, and then it's when we're seeing that Brock he really cares about Venom. So it's kind of cool that they have this. They're living together, and that's the whole episode, and that's the whole movie. In the first movie, we had okay, well, Brock and Venom are together because they need each other. Brock and Venom are together because there's a crisis, right? Brock and Venom are not together, and they have to learn to cohabit together, right? And it's kind of crazy because they're like the person who hesitates to be with Venom is Brock, and you can understand because Venom is like kind of like a killer. You understand that, but still, maybe as evil is what we need to kill Cassidy. Cassidy was a bigger evil between Cassidy and Venom. Cassidy is the bigger villain, so maybe you have to do some. You have to fight fire with fire, and there's a scene about Cassidy telling Brock, "Yo, I'm a villain too. You're a villain." It was a beautiful moment that they wasted because they didn't push it right. But then we got a scene where it's weird again. The movie feels weird. There's a scene where we have a really touching moment between Brock and Venom and how Brock cares about Venom. They said, "Yo, I'm gonna make it you feel what experience." Then something goes bad, and we if you know the Marvel universe, if you do know, like the explosion is the fusion of multiverse by Doctor Strange, but it doesn't. They don't explain that. And then you see Tom Holland as Peter Parker, and he's Spider-Man, and Venom's like, "I want him." Right? And then we end up knowing that because of Spider-Man having the spider power, then Venom is gonna want to choose Peter Parker. So it does have a purpose. But knowing that, and knowing that you spend the whole movie making Brock regret not trusting Venom and them being together, is weird. So again, the movie is great, but it doesn't get the perfect grade, because again, it's not a perfect movie, and I don't think a lot of movies are perfect, but in this one, it was a lot of things that they could have improved, and it did feel like the first one was superior. So still a really good movie, but if you end up watching the first one, right, still you're good. Carnage, if there's no true movie, then the second one proved no purpose. And it's weird because the charm of the first one was how similar Venom and Eddie was. They were both losers. They were both living a similar lifestyle. And the second one, them being separated, we love that. We love Venom because again, it is a combination of an symbiote and Eddie. But them not being together, you got two characters that are halfway there. Brock, although gets a lot of scene, it doesn't like stand out. And Venom, although he does stand out, we know that because of the body he's killing, you cannot live without Brock. So you're like, okay, he's a cool character, but he's not completed, you know. And with Brock, it's like, why is this cool character doing nothing? Then I don't think they should be doing something all the time, but it does feel like together they're a lot cooler. So again, this was a movie. I love you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow with some more content. Good night. Peace. Good night, Vietnam. It's like a good morning, but still miserably. Okay, guys. Peace.